Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Improving your forage can boost profitability in your cattle operation. Today, we bring you expert insights on range and pasture management from all across the country.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. We're here in San Diego, California, the site of the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. The convention will offer something for cattlemen and women in every segment of the industry. There will be policy and cattle market updates, hands-on education sessions as part of Cattlemen's College, and a great chance to meet old and new friends at the huge NCBA Trade Show. And there's great entertainment planned, including the Cowboy Concert Series featuring none other than country music star Martina McBride. The Cattle Industry Convention is set for January 27th through the 29th, 2016. San Diego is an easy and affordable city to travel to and a great place to escape winter for a few days. Find out more and get registered online at the website beefusa.org. Now, some of the education and information at the convention will focus on ways to get more efficient in your cattle operation. For cow-calf producers, the most cost-effective way to provide nutrition to their herd is with good grass and forage. This week, we're getting some tips from Dow AgroSciences on range and pasture management and how it can help ranchers improve their bottom line. Let's get started. Welcome back. When it comes to building a profitable cattle operation, it pays to maximize your forage resources so you can improve your herd's productivity and keep your feed expenses as low as possible. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter takes us to Middle Tennessee for more on the importance of improving forage quality.
For cow-calf producers, maintaining their forage base and the condition of their cows is essential to keeping their herd productive. But every operation faces different challenges. For example, Bill Topper has been around agriculture most of his life, but his 800-acre farm in Middle Tennessee is a place he and his wife just bought a couple of years ago.
The pastures, when we drove through the place with the realtor, and he drove us around on a four-wheeler, and I can tell you that the weeds were so high that there were often times where we would drive across the field with the four-wheeler, you couldn't see where you're going. And, you really had to literally, pardon the pun, see through the weeds to be able to envision what it could be, as a really good place to raise cattle. But now we're in the process as a full-blown cattle operation. It's taken us about 2 years to get to where we are today. We're about 175 brood cows, and all in all with heifers, registered bulls that we backlot and will sell this coming fall, the first batch, and we're almost 400 head on the place.
Also in Tennessee, Lester Hardaway has faced a different set of problems. On his operation, a flood destroyed years of hard work in improving his pasture and forage resources.
Back before the flood, we had the capability of grazing 175 mama cows. Since the flood, we had to drop back to less than 100 on the same amount of land. And when you're selling this beef, I don't care if it's the genetics or what, all you're selling is grass. And so the better the grass is, the better the cows do. And so with the last year, we got our hay ground back up to where it needed to be in production, and we reseeded about 80 acres of grass, and that was in our first phase of the 3-year program, reseeding and trying to get our weed under control. The weeds is playing a hard part on these cattle. I mean, it's just taking its toll on our pastures.
And with record high grain prices in the past few years, all producers have had a big incentive to minimize feed purchases by improving their grass and forage.
For the producers that are trying to maintain weight on cows, you have the option of trying to do it on a forage-based diet or a concentrate-based diet. you can do it most economically on a forage-based diet, because one thing that I think that farmers have lacked doing is we've gotten so caught up on commodity products that we have really forgotten the fact that we have a huge resource that our cows walk around on every day. And by better utilizing those, that's all the nutrients these cows need. We've seen cows that have a body condition score of 6 or better, and all they're doing is eating grass. But it's the type of grass and type of forages we have out there available for them. And that's very important. Clean pastures, nutritious pastures, utilizing your pastures by rotational grazing.
Dr. Clark says body condition scoring, or BCS, is a valuable way to measure a cow's health and a key to enhancing productivity.
Nutrition is essential in order to get those cows, plays a huge part in fertility. So body condition scores, we know that by increasing body condition scores, we increase conception rates. If cows are not getting bred, they're not going to calve. So it's essential for us to make sure that we have cows at an optimal body condition score so we can get calves on the ground.
In fact, unless a producer is willing to pay high feed bills, having enough grass to keep cows in good body condition is critical. And there's a high price to pay when forage and nutritional value are lacking.
One thing that we do know is that in the nutrition hierarchy, the most important thing is maintaining the cow's personal self. So reproduction, lactation, all of those are secondary. To the cow, they're not a necessity. So if we have a cow that's of a low BCS score, all of her nutrients is going to go to herself. She's got to maintain. So that sets us back, 1, in raising a calf, and 2, in rebreeding. Reproduction to a cow is luxury. So only any excess is going to go towards helping her be reproductively sound. So it's essential that we have cows in a situation where they are nutritionally fit to take care of themselves, to raise a baby, and to rebreed.
The way we look at when the first bite of grass the cow eats is to just maintain herself. The second bite goes to her raising what she's got on her side, which is a calf that's the meal ticket for everybody. It pays the bills. The third thing goes to get herself in condition to rebreed. And hopefully there's enough nutrients, enough grass that she can go ahead, and she's a growing animal until they get about 5 years old. So hopefully that will let her go ahead and get the extra growth that she needs.
We'll have more from Tennessee when we return. Stay with us.
This is yours, and so is what grows there. Not theirs or theirs, yours. You need this to fight this and this to grow more this. Because the more of this you feed them, the less this you spend on that, which leaves more of this here. Don't let them take this from you. Chaparral takes care of weeds and brush, and that's that.
There are many great reasons to join NCBA, and that includes exclusive NCBA member discounts and benefits from some outstanding companies.
Hi, this is Kerry Bastine, president of Roper Apparel and Footwear, Stetson Apparel Boots, and Tin Hall. We are very proud sponsors of the NCBA, and for all new members signing up with the NCBA, you get 50% off your first purchase, and for all Go Forward members, you get 25% off 4 times a year. Go to urbanwesternwear.com, click on the NCBA specials, use your coupon code for your first 50% off, and come back to Urban Western Wear all year long and use your 25% coupons that you'll find in the National Cattlemen's newspaper.
Big discounts on boots, clothing, and Western apparel is just one of the many amazing deals you get as an NCBA member. Don't miss out. Join NCBA today and enjoy these exclusive member discounts. Find out more at beefusa.org.
Hey, Russell Nimitz here for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We're here on a beautiful California coastline as we get ready to set sail for San Diego and the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, packed full of fun and entertainment. Entertainment like country music star Martina McBride. Find out more by visiting beefusa.org.
Welcome back. Let's return to Tennessee and reporter Brian Baxter with more on ways to maximize forage quality for your cows.
Weeds are a battle nearly all producers face when trying to improve or simply maintain their forage resources so they meet their herd's nutritional needs. Bill Topper started by identifying his biggest weed problem, which in this part of the country was buckbrush.
That was a weed that we had to address first. And and how we attacked that weed was with a product called Chaparral. We knew we wouldn't get it on one pass because the problem was that bad, but we've sprayed every inch of this ranch now with that product to wipe out the buckbrush. And the second pass, we've really cleared up, I think, at least 95% of that particular stemmy-based weed. You know, we were in some pastures this morning that you'd be hard-pressed to find a weed. You can find one maybe every 100 yards or so, but we're at the point this year with a pasture like that we may not have to go in and spray this year. So we get a year off from spraying, and we can go concentrate on fields that the weed control isn't quite as good. But the canopy of pasture grass there is now so thick, so dense that weeds are really getting starved out.
Dow AgroSciences' specialized field team works closely with cattle producers like Bill to identify weeds, review product options, and recommend pasture improvement programs that build forage quality over time.
Prescription is the key word here. It's not going out and doing the shotgun effect where you just go out there and say, I've got weeds, you pull the trigger on whatever herbicide is the cheapest, and then you've got weeds again, that year later on or the next year. Prescribing is key because, yes, cattle prices are high, but that doesn't mean we need to be foolish with our money. Let's be wise with our money so we can put more money back in our pockets.
No doubt, controlling weeds and improving forage quality involves an additional cost up front. But for these producers, it is an investment that pays off.
I think that they need to start by looking at what they have available to them. In my opinion, that's what's going to make them money. If they have forage out there, if they have land to put cows on, they have land to grow grass on for them to eat, and that's the way they're going to be able to put more money in their pocket.
When you drive by our place, we want people to look at our cattle and, and basically say, "Oh, there's some nice cattle." And when they drive by our pastures and they look at those, they say, "Those are some of the nicest pastures we've ever seen." It's not overgrazed. It's well taken care of. We can't find a weed on the place. That's really the dream.
In Middle Tennessee, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Dow AgroSciences' full range of products can fit nearly any rangeland or pasture situation. Learn more at rangeandpasture.com. Let's turn our focus back to Texas and other states in this region where one of the big challenges cattle operations face is prickly pear. Let's learn a little more about prickly pear and some of the challenges it presents and the ways it can be controlled.
Probably the main problem that we have with prickly pear is basically reducing forage access. As you can see with this plant, there's actually quite a bit of forage that actually grows up in the pear. But the problem is that cattle don't have access to that, and so it becomes ungrazable. If you look at a pasture like that we're standing in right here, you can actually see where cattle have grazed around this pear, but yet they haven't grazed in the pear. So effectively what this pear has really done is taken this little bit of land out of production, if you will. If you think about pear from the standpoint of taking over pasture and really not so much out competing the grass for moisture as much as for space, we got to look at it from the standpoint of how much pear can we really handle in a pasture before it starts causing a problem. Anything above about 25% cover of prickly pear is going to be detrimental to grazing. It's a very succulent plant, lots of water in the plant, and so it can survive for a lot of years with low moisture situations. It's a very wet plant. You would think that cattle would like to eat this plant, but in actuality, because of the spines and things on it, it causes a lot of issues with cattle. It causes pear mouth and things like that. It causes a lot of ulcerations in their tongues and in their mouths and lips. There are lots of different varieties of pear in Texas, pear in the United States. But by and large, the recipe for controlling prickly pear is all the same, regardless of the species. That's the good thing. One thing to keep in mind when we talk about controlling prickly pear with chemicals, prickly pear by nature is a very slow metabolizing plant. Things go on inside that plant from a metabolism standpoint very, very slowly. So when we spray prickly pear, we have to expect that takes a significant amount of time to actually work. When we put Tordon, 22K, or Surmount, what we have to do is make sure that we get good coverage on this plant. We have to use some good surfactants to get through that pad, and make sure that when you're spraying the pad, especially from the ground with the hand sprayer, do what you can to spray both sides of that pad and not just spray one side of the plant. The more herbicide coverage that you can get on that plant, the more we get through that thick, heavy wax cuticle, and the better control that we get of the plant. It's not so much that we can't control prickly pear in dry weather, it just takes longer. That's when it takes that 2 to 3 years to get to full kill. If we've got good wet moisture conditions, everything's green like we see here in this place, at this place today, it's a lot faster control. We can a lot of times see activity going on in 2 to 3 months and good control in 1 to 2 years instead of 2 to 3 years. So moisture is extremely important.
We'll have more with Charlie Hart just a little bit later. And still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll talk about some of the tools you can use to battle mesquite. And we'll give you a hands-on demonstration of the value of an ATV spray rig. Stay with us. We'll have more right after this.
Got green fever? Your John Deere dealer has the cure. Big savings on new tractors, hay tools, and more. Choose from cashback offers and low-rate financing options during Green Fever. And to sweeten the deal, go online to greenfever.com/bonus to download your coupon for even bigger savings, above and beyond the great deal. Get the gear you need and the savings you want at greenfever.com/bonus. Then go see your John Deere dealer for the cure.
Well, I think a rancher has to be a steward of the land. There's nobody else that can take care of land better than a rancher can, because he has to make his living off of it. When we switched over to the Purina products, it was a step in the right direction, and it's really been profitable for us. It just makes that much of a difference.
The difference we see in the cattle is the consistency of their nutrition. They don't go up and down drastically in weight. Every head on this ranch is fed the Purina Superlix 30. If we keep them on that feed, they stay in optimum condition year-round.
The cattle hold their condition a lot better all throughout the whole year. The products they're producing are very much in line with what the rancher needs to be using to be profitable in the future. That's the best thing ever happened to us.
It does make a difference that we can see, day in and day out.
Set sail for San Diego and the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. It's the cattle industry's biggest convention with education, networking, and fun that can't be beat. Plus, you can check out the huge NCBA Trade Show, and there will be a special event held on the historic USS Midway. It's the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, January 27th through 29th in San Diego. Visit beefusa.org for more.
Welcome back. One of the keys to success for cow-calf producers is providing adequate grass and forage for their cattle. But that job gets especially tough when invasive species such as mesquite are in the picture, choking out forage for both cattle and wildlife. For insight on ways to win the battle against mesquite, we turn to Cattlemen reporter Candace Wida in Texas.
For cattle operations here and in much of the Southwest, one of the biggest barriers to improved grazing and wildlife habitat is mesquite. We came to Texas to gain some insights from industry experts and producers who are experienced in battling mesquite.
Mesquite robs moisture that we can sure use on our rangelands.
Mesquite is a very prolific plant down in the Southwest. Texas, it really is a big problem for us, probably our biggest noxious plant problem.
So tell us how mesquite has negatively impacted the operation and why controlling it is so important for you all.
Mesquite is a real concern to us because it's an invasive species. It's very prolific. Canopy cover causes us problems. It shades out our natural grasses and thus reducing our forage growth, less grazing ability.
The problem is that it comes in and basically makes a monoculture. Shades out a lot of our native grasses. Not only causes a monoculture from a brush standpoint, but also from a forage diversity standpoint. Only certain types of plants can actually grow under a mesquite canopy. And so you can actually change a pasture quite dramatically just in the diversity of the forage plants with a mesquite canopy coverage.
Why is mesquite so difficult to control?
Mesquite is very hard to control, mainly because it's such a prolific resprouter from the crown of that plant, the base of that plant. We can actually go in and top kill mesquite by cutting it off, mowing it, shredding it, fire or anything else, and not kill that plant. It will resprout from the base, so that the target when we're talking about killing mesquite is actually killing what's below ground and not what's above ground, okay? So that's one of the reasons it's very difficult to control.
With mesquite, management program was developed out of necessity. We were losing so many acreage to mesquite. Our hand was forced. We had to come up with something. Sendero was our best avenue.
Tell us about your experience with Sendero here on the operation.
Our experience with Sendero has been very good. We've been very happy with the results we've received using Sendero on our mesquite. We've been able to reduce our mesquite population, our canopy cover, significantly. Sendero, in conjunction with other management tools, have really helped us. We incorporate that diversity and increase the diversity across the ranch.
We started a mesquite research project back in about 2007, and over about a 7-year period, we came up with Sendero herbicide. And our goal with that project was to not only improve the mortality of mesquite control that we get from a herbicide, but also the consistency of that.
What are some of the different ways that Sendero can be applied?
Sendero can be applied in a multitude of ways. Mainly, we put it out with an airplane as an aerial application in a low volume type situation. We'll do what we call individual plant treatment, backpack type sprayers, or UTV or ATV type sprayers where we spray individual plants. We can spray the foliage with Sendero and do a very good job with a little wider window of application.
Why is timing so critical in the application of Sendero?
With mesquite control, probably the #1 thing that we really need to look at is proper timing. And there's several factors that we want to look at. We want to look at the time of year that we actually start spraying. And essentially what we want to see is we kind of start counting back after bud break. And we want full leaf development, and we want dark green leaves. Once we get those dark green leaves, then we know that at that point it's a fully developed leaf, and we're actually moving carbohydrates down into that root system. We talked about wanting to kill that root system. So we have to have the carbohydrates moving down in that plant and going to the root system. So the timing to do that is very critical.
What are the advantages of having selectivity in mesquite management?
Through the research project for Sendero, one of the things that we began to notice is how selective it was to mesquite. And we started noticing how it was leaving some of the more desirable species unharmed, such as our oaks, such as our bromelias, such as our lote bushes and things like that that are important wildlife species. The selectivity of Sendero herbicide is really an important part of it today, mainly because of the fact that landowners, in specifically in Texas, but most of the Southwest, are beginning to utilize their land more from a wildlife standpoint compared to cattle. Now, there's still obviously lots of cattle producers out there, but a lot of those cattle producers also have a benefit from their wildlife populations in terms of economic income and things like that. Using Sendero, the selectivity of it actually gives us a benefit of leaving some of our desirable species. Those desirable species are important for wildlife habitat. Okay, some of that might be from a nesting cover standpoint. Some of it might be from just a protection cover standpoint. And it might be a browse type species. But those desirable species are very important from a wildlife habitat standpoint.
Being able to decrease the mesquite and increase the diversity of the desirable browse and forbs has given us the ability to increase the quality and quantity of our deer herd. Our bobwhite quail population has been gaining ground, whereas other places, there's an opposite trend from that.
The unchecked invasion of mesquite can cut forage production by 60 to 70%. Dr. Jim Ansley with Texas A&M has been researching new ways to win the battle against mesquite.
People have traditionally done brush sculpting with mechanical treatments, where you take a bulldozer out there or some other big piece of heavy equipment and clear lanes, either uprooting plants or knocking them over. And that obviously is very exact. You can do that exactly where you want to, but the problem with that is typically, unless you're pulling the plant out by the root system, you typically get the resprouting that occurs. And so all of that investment, maybe sometimes $300, $400 an acre, all of that investment goes by the wayside in 5-10 years because of the resprouting. And then you're looking at a resprouting forest of mesquite that's even worse than you had it before. Sendero can do that for a much cheaper cost, and the other nice thing about it is that you've root killed most of those mesquite in there, and so they're not going to resprout, and so the longevity of keeping that area open is much, much longer, 30, 40 years.
How does Sendero bring value to cattle producers who are looking to control mesquite for grazing purposes as well as for wildlife?
So it's really more of a difference in what you want to do in different spaces on that landscape. Sendero is as a product, it's very good about not drifting, and so you can be very exacting as to where you want to spray Sendero. So if you want to have a 30-acre area of open land that is currently infested by mesquite, but you would like to convert that more to an open grassland, or maybe a grassland that has some of the better shrubs in it for forage value, Sendero can be used for that. But you may want an area right next to that you still want to keep as a dense patch of mesquite or some other brush species for wildlife habitat. So the nice thing about a product like Sendero is that it allows you to do that. You can do that brush sculpting in a very exact manner.
So if a producer is looking to restore their pasture for the purpose of grazing as well as wildlife, where should they start?
The first place to start would be to really try to get a good inventory of how that brush is distributed on that area. You usually have quite a bit of variation in that brush density. And what I would recommend is that typically in the areas that have the most dense mesquite, that's where you're going to have the least grass production and probably the most deterioration of your grass community. In my opinion, that's not the best place to start. I would work on, if resources are limited and you realize that you can't spray the entire pasture, you don't have the resources to spray the entire pasture, and you may want to have a little bit of wildlife habitat in addition if that's one of your goals. I would work on the areas that are maybe a little bit less dense, that still have a pretty good grass community, that you can get a better bang for your buck when you spray that immediately, because that grass community will respond faster.
There's no doubt, left untreated, mesquite will take over a pasture and leave little or no grazing for cattle or habitat for wildlife. That's why new tools in the effort to manage and control mesquite are so eagerly welcomed by producers. In Texas, I'm Candace Weta reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
The folks from Dow AgroSciences will be on hand at the NCBA trade show here in San Diego, so you'll be able to ask all your questions about improving your pastures and growing more forage. Registration for the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show right here in San Diego is open now. Find out all you need to know at the website beefusa.org. There's more of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen still ahead. Stay with us.
When it comes to your land, it pays to be smart. At New Holland, smart means giving you a wide range of options to fit your needs, like smooth cutting, flood-free conditioning, and versatility. Smart means putting more hay in the bale and leaving less in the field. It also means providing exceptional after-sales support and growing a legacy that goes far beyond equipment. That's New Holland Smart. Visit your local New Holland dealer today.
There are many great reasons to join NCBA, and that includes exclusive NCBA member-only discounts, such as savings on new equipment purchases from New Holland.
Hi, I'm Mike Corman with New Holland Agriculture, and I'm pleased here to talk about our New Holland member benefits to the National Cattlemen's and Beef Association members. New Holland offers special benefits to NCBA members where they can save up to $1,000 off the purchase of a New Holland equipment. Members can save off the purchase of New Holland hay and forage and mid-range tractors, as well as other products. We have New Holland dealers located throughout the United States. Stop into your New Holland dealer and learn more. New Holland and NCBA, smart partners for agriculture.
Savings on equipment purchases from New Holland is just one of the fantastic deals you get as an NCBA member. Don't miss out. Join NCBA today at beefusa.org.
Welcome back. Whether you're in Texas or any other area of the country, the value of bringing your grass back and improving your forage is very clear. In recent years, there's been a revolution in the use of utility vehicles, or ATVs, as spray rigs to get better control of weeds and brush in pastures. Charlie Hart from Dow AgroSciences takes us in the field to share some best management practices when it comes to ATV sprayers.
There's lots of different sprayers that you can buy today, lots of them that are already put together for you, different sizes, different types of boom configurations, different types of tanks and things like that. There's no one size that fits all, but there's a few things on this. This is one I had custom built, and there's a few things on this that I've learned through the years help me from the standpoint of pasture spraying, whether that's brush spraying or weed spraying or whatever. One of the things is that we have a 65-gallon nurse tank, and I don't ever spray out of this tank. It's strictly for water. It's never contaminated with any chemical at all. And then I can fill up 4 different 5-gallon, what we call cone tanks. These cone tanks are really nice because if you've ever been out spraying in a flat bottom or a round bottom type tank like the nurse tank back here, when you're going out there back and forth in the pasture, it's really hard to positive drain those. These you get positive drain of no matter what kind of terrain you're in. So you can take these all the way down until you're spraying air, and that's a very good thing when it comes to tanks in terms of weed spraying and brush spraying. Lots of different types of pumps that you can get as well. What I chose to go with are electric pumps. I have a separate electric pump for the nurse tank and another pump for the sprayer itself. Okay, these are 12-volt pumps. One of the things that you need to be sure of is to match the pump volume with the nozzling configuration that you decide to use. Okay, all the nozzles will have charts with them. It'll tell you the flow requirement for the nozzles. make sure that your pump gets you the right kind of flow that you need for the type of nozzle that you're going to get. What you see here is a boomless nozzle, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but you can also get boom type nozzles where you fold the booms out. The problems with those out on pasture and rangeland is when you're going in and out of rough areas, those things will jump around on you, and they get caught in the brush and other things like that. So where I've actually got a boomless sprayer on either side of this, or boomless nozzles, and then flat fan nozzles in the center, okay? And so with this, I can actually, I'm not any wider than my vehicle, which means that if I can get my vehicle through it from a brush standpoint, I'm not going to be dragging the boom on anything. But yet I can spray about a 30-foot swath with this application technique right here. Another thing that's important on these larger rigs is to be able to have control of the sprayer from the cab of the vehicle. We can have just an on-off switch like we have over here. Simply turns the pump on and off. And then we can have controllers here that actually shows you your boom pressure, and you're able to turn on and off different parts of the boom. Nozzles also have to have a specific height above their target. And again, as you look at the nozzle and you look at those manufacturer specifications, it'll tell you how high above your target that you need to be. So one of the things that really is helpful is to have a boom that is adjustable, so that if I'm going out and spraying weeds that are short, not very tall, I can actually drop this boom down, level it out, and spray lower to the ground. Or like we're going to try to do today, I can bring this up higher and get it above prickly pear plants and spray prickly pear as well. Another good aspect of a sprayer is to have a good handheld wand on it as well. There's lots of different types of nozzles and lots of different types of hand wands that you can use and you can get. But in general, just having a good size hose on it, actually you can get one that has a reel on it if you want to invest in that, and go up to about 25, 30 feet long of hose as well. But this allows you to do spot spraying. As we think about controlling weeds and brush in our pasture and do-it-yourself type of applications, and it's a way that we can get out and actually control mesquite, prickly pear, weeds, or whatever in our pastures, and help us grow more grass, help us grow more forage for our cattle, as well as improve the condition of our rangeland for wildlife.
Still to come, we'll hear from our friend Baxter Black. We'll be back with more right after this short break.
Hey, Russell Nimitz here for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We're here on a beautiful California coastline as we get ready to set sail for San Diego and the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, packed full of fun and entertainment. Entertainment like country music star Martina McBride. Find out more by visiting beefusa.org.
Every truck can tow a boat. Every truck can climb a hill. Every truck can haul a trailer. But not everyone can say they're the fastest growing truck brand in America. Guts, Glory, Ram.
I have never wanted to do anything other than be in the cattle business. We use Triangle on the cows because it's been safe and effective, and it's done us a good job. We're asking these cows to do more, so that has been a change. We have had just phenomenal results. We have very, very little loss. 100% of our cattle get vaccinated with Triangle.
Welcome back. Now, earlier we talked about mesquite and the fact that controlling these plants early before they do serious harm is the best option. And with us now is Pat Birch, telling us a little bit more about how to control mesquite and other brushy plants. Pat, let's begin with a backpack sprayer. How can this be an important tool for ranchers who are trying to control brushy plants and mesquite?
Yes, well, the main thing is its versatility. These can be used for
basal applications, which are set up to spray oil at the base of the tree, or it can be used as a foliar application. I generally like to have a dedicated piece of equipment, so that one I use for water and one I use for oil. But this particular one is set up for basal application right now. The important thing that you need to consider is that it has to have oil-resistant seals. Those are generally called Viton seals, and you'll see that on, it's usually specified by the manufacturer when you're purchasing it. The other thing about this is the wand that comes with the backpack. And it is a plastic wand. It's very flexible, as you can see. The shutoff here is at the handle. And so if you're making an application, the amount of herbicide that's in this tube, this wand, will actually treat several stems. So if you're making the application and then as you walk from plant to plant, you're going to end up dripping herbicide, which is not a very responsible thing to do and not very cost effective.
Sure.
But you can manage to minimize that amount of drippage by using a check valve. And these are very simple to purchase. These check valves have an ability to shut off at about 5 psi. They can be inserted here right below the spray tip, and that'll work pretty well at reducing the amount of dripping. Now the other thing that we have is the more deluxe wand, as you said, the gold-plated wand.
That's right.
This one is set up different. This is an ultra-low volume wand. Now the handle here is the same, but our shutoff now, there's a cord that runs down the tube and actually shuts off at the tip, and it's a very crisp shutoff. This is very expensive, but the one that I have that is actually attached to my backpack at home is now about 25 years old. So it lasts a long time. It also has it's a lot more rigid and durable for pressing it down into like a rose bush or something like that where you're making the application.
Very good. Pat, I've heard you talk about both cut stump, I should say, and basal treatments. We don't have mesquite in our country. Tell us a little bit about the differences between those two treatments.
Yeah, and the good thing is that this kind of an application applies to all brush species. So it will apply to your situation as well. When we're making the low volume basal application, we're making the application to the lower 12 to 15 inches of the stem. So from the ground line up about 12 to 15 inches, you're making the application all the way around. As you'll see, we also have root flares here. These are surface roots. They can sometimes pop up a little bit different distance from the stem, and those should be treated as well. So we're treating any kind of bark that's exposed that we can see. So that's how we're making our low-volume basal application.
And the cut stump, through the magic of TV, we've already cut it.
We've already cut it, and so when we make that cut, now we've got an exposed cut surface here, and we want to either use a water-soluble herbicide and make the application immediately after cutting. So as soon as you cut it, set the saw down, make the application to that cambium layer. You don't want to waste any time. You want to put it on right away. Now, if you're using a low-volume basal technique, you can actually still come back anytime afterwards, make the application here, as well as to any exposed bark or root flares, just the same way we would with the low-volume basal technique, but now we don't have the tree above it. Generally, when we talk about cut surface treatments, where we're cutting it and treating a stump like that, low-volume basal works very well for up to about 6 inches diameter. Kind of depends on the corkiness of the bark. But generally up to about 6 inches. So once you get larger stems than that, that's when we would start making cuts. The type of the herbicide that we're going to use, most people are familiar with the cut surface treatment that is applied with Tordon RTU herbicide. That's a water soluble. So that would be the application we put on immediately after cutting. If we're going to do this with the low-volume basal mix, the basal cuts surface treatment, then we're going to make that application anytime afterwards. You know, you could be days, weeks, months afterwards, as long as it hasn't started to resprout. And we're going to make that with either Remedy Ultra herbicide in oil, or we're going to make that with Pasture Guard HL herbicide in oil.
Very good. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for these practical tips. We'll be back with Baxter Black and more right after this.
This is yours, and so is what grows there. Not theirs or theirs, yours. You need this to fight this and this to grow more this. Because the more of this you feed them, the less this you spend on that, which leaves more of this here. Don't let them take this from you. Chaparral takes care of weeds and brush, and that's that.
There are many great reasons to join NCBA, and that includes exclusive NCBA member-only discounts from Cabela's.
We have an exclusive membership program that allows members of NCBA to buy our Cabela's co-branded gift cards at a 15% discount.
Use gift cards towards Cabela's purchases either online, through the catalog, or in-store. NCBA members can also purchase logo apparel from Cabela's at a discount.
And we do all of the NCBA's merchandise through the website. In that program, you can receive up to a 30% discount through the NCBA site. We have state association logos, all the Beef USA logos. We can use those to outfit your guys working on the ranch. Cabela's is proud to be a sponsor of NCBA and all their member base.
15% off gift cards to Cabela's plus savings on apparel is just one of the great deals you get as an NCBA member. Join today at beefusa.org.
Let's face it, you don't think a lot about your trailer hitch. You use it and forget it. We understand. But at B&W, we think about it. Short nights, long hauls, never-ending chores. The unthinkable. We think about it all, so you don't have to. B&W. Trusted.
If you're not using IMI Global's verification programs, you might as well set your money on fire. To give your wieners added value, no program begins without a traceable animal. Then add on BQA and other specialties and you open up a whole new market for your calves. You might be thinking, the market's so good, why bother? You ever heard of making hay when the sun shines? You got a choice. Get in the game or visit IMIGlobal.com. I was talking to Okie the other day. He's the farm dog. He doesn't care to go out on the range with the cow dogs. I found him down by the corral one day. He seemed to be pondering. So I asked, what are you thinking about? School, he said. Maybe going to college. Well, that was a new one for me. He never seemed to be the studious kind. Well, what would you major in? Bones, I guess. An anatomy student? Maybe an archaeologist, a musician? No, I was thinking about becoming a chef. Well, have you ever cooked anything, I asked? No, but I've eaten a lot of bones. Well, that's for sure, I said, remembering the thousands of carcass remnants that I've found on the porch. What kind of menu would you have? I mean, a bone's a bone, right? No, not to a bone connoisseur. That's like saying a rope is a rope to a cowboy. When the only caviar you've ever eaten is that fluorescent fish bait, you have a very limited sense of the bountiful taste sensations that await you. Whew, I guess you're right, I conceded. Do you actually have to cook the bone? Well, it can be marinated, you know. Served all slime rosato, sliced into bone dollars. Wow, I said, I had no idea. Ethnic restaurants draw big crowds too. Look at Burger King. Well, that's not ethnic. King, said Okie, like the King of England? They dig his bones up and eat them. Well, that sounds interesting, but where are you going to get a regular source of bones? I've got a cousin in Miles City, and he said they've dug up thousands of dinosaur skeletons up there. Well, I looked at Okie. I knew he'd never make it to Montana. He won't even go to the mailbox with me unless I drive him. But I thought to myself, it's nice to know that even good old farm dogs dream big. Kind of like good old farmers. This is Baxter Black. And Okie from out there.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits,
but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Set sail for San Diego and the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. It's the cattle industry's biggest convention with education, networking, and fun that can't be beat. Plus, you can check out the huge NCBA Trade Show, and there will be a special event held on the historic USS Midway. It's the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, January 27th through 29th in San Diego. Visit beefusa.org for more.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Hello, Philip Ellis here to invite you to a great event, the NCBA Pack Party on the Pacific and Live Auction. It's happening right here in San Diego on Friday, January 29th, starting at 5 p.m. This event is always a great way to connect with friends and enjoy some outstanding music, food, and fun. Plus, you can participate in the live auction with the proceeds going directly to benefit our efforts in Washington, D.C. So join me at the Pack Party on the Pacific. See you there.
Now remember, the 2016 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show is coming up in San Diego, January 27th through the 29th. If you're in the beef business, it's an event you won't want to miss. Find out all you need to know by going to the website beefusa.org. Well, that's our time for this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner, and we'll see you next week right here on RFD TV.